Hey there, all my PopCon peeps. Magic Man Rusty here, and welcome to this live streaming episode of the Magnificent Seven. To continue the celebration of PopCon Indy's 7th anniversary, we like to spend 7 minutes with icons of popular culture. And joining me in the PopCon corral tonight, a man who knows more about magic than Professor Albus Dumbledore himself. I'm your host, Rusty Ammerman, and our Magnificent Seven with illusion creator Jim Steinmeyer begins, well, in just a second, because I'm going to have to Jim, thank you for joining us. I need to tell our viewers a little bit about you. Now, I know you, of course, because you're a rock star in the magic world, but even if you're not a nerdy magician, people out there are familiar with your work. Folks out there, if you've ever seen a live or televised performance of Doug Henning, Siegfried and Roy, Lance Burton, or this new up-and-comer David Copperfield, you've certainly seen Jim's creations. He was instrumental in vanishing the Statue of Liberty. The New York Times calls him the celebrated Invisible Man, not just a performer and creator, a scholar of history of magic and theater, a copious writer on that subject. I'm not done yet. His imagination has influenced me on magic shows. He's designed theatrical effects for live Broadway, like Into the Woods, Beauty and the Beast, Mary Poppins. And he's also served, and this is what I want to talk about, he's also served as a consultant and concept designer for Walt Disney Imagineering, developing many the theme park attractions that we're familiar with. Unequivocally a Renaissance man. Now we can start this. Boy, it would have taken 7 minutes just to get that out there, Jim. Did I miss anything?
No. That was fantastic. Thank you.
Good.
More than I would have done.
So what I'm also going to do is I'm going to put a little link down here to show one of your creations. A few years ago, our local basketball team had a Greatest Showman theme night, and we did the halftime show, a big presentation, and I was P.T. Barnum with the whole ringmaster outfit on, and we did your puzzle box illusion, which is probably one of your more famous ones. Beautifully done, I think, with all the music, and so we'll put that so people can see what you do. So Disney Imagineering, we hear about this. That's like the mystics of the entertainment world. What is it? Do you guys all get together in a secret little cabal and talk about Disney stuff? How does that work?
Well, it's not a secret little cabal. It was an office building. Their campus is quite a bit larger now than when I worked for them. But I worked for them for a little over 10 years, and they have offices in Glendale, California, and it's kind of unimpressive. You know, it's a modest industrial complex, and there are offices and there are cubicles, and if you were to just walk through it, you could be fooled into thinking it's pretty ordinary. But there are fantastic shops, and there are scenic shops, and there are facilities where things are being built and things are being designed. And if you look closely, of course, a lot of tremendous art on the walls, which is telling you what people are doing at that time. So they have a really interesting process by which those new projects are developed with a team of people, and they put lots of people through the process, both creative writers, artists, and then fold in engineers and designers and specific designers like lighting design. And so that takes a long process. You know, those projects will take years and years as they work those in. But it's a fascinating process, and of course, that's how they get the results that they've got.
And your specialty there is obviously in the movies, CGI fixes everything, but your specialty is creating effects that can be done in front of a live audience in real time. And so if we were to go to some of the Disney parks, where can we see some of your influence today?
Well, it's really funny. I did several things while I was there that involved magic, but I was actually hired as a concept designer, which was a much broader area. And the group that I was in was in concept design. So I did the effect at the end of the Roger Rabbit ride where you ride through the hole, or you ride through the black hole in the wall. And I worked on some effects for the new Tower of Terror, which when it went into Florida, and for some of the Euro Disney designs and some of the ride developments, special effects in that. But of course, they have a tremendous backlog of effects that they use, and they're constantly revising as they put their new projects together. So it's a real challenge to come up with new things for Disney.
Yeah, I think for my money, the Tower of Terror is the best theme ride ever created.
It's really amazing, and what's amazing about it is that it's a visceral kind of shock ride as well as a themed ride. Yeah.
And it's not just kind of a pseudo theme ride like we see in some other parks. There is a story that takes place, and you are literally part of the story. And
I would say, I mean, that's always their strength. Is there's always a tremendous amount of story there. You might not always get it, and it might not always be apparent, and that's okay. That's okay. But it's there because it makes elements of it hold together. Right. Even if you don't walk out of it explaining the story, that's really okay.
All right. Some people just want to ride the attraction and go woo and get wet, but some people like me, because magic. If you're talking about the history of magic, you're really talking about the history of live entertainment. I mean, those things go back almost to the same genesis, I presume.
Right.
And it's like all art, it's about good storytelling, and that's what I think the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror is beautifully themed. And do you remember like what your suggestions or kind of what you
I was involved in some of the changing effects when they revised it. When you look at yourself and you dissolve in the mirror, when it went to Florida and then when it went to Tokyo.
Yeah. That's fantastic. All right, so let me tell a little bit. If people want to learn more about you, your website is jimsteinmeyer.com. A bunch of books, not just for magic nerds, but for those out there who are fans of the history of theater. If I can recommend Hiding the Elephant, one of your books, Hiding the Elephant, How Magicians Invented the Impossible and Learned to Disappear. I think that's a book that could apply to people that aren't just magic nerds, wouldn't you say?
Oh, it was sold as a book for the public, as a history book for the public, and that was certainly the way it was done. I'd also mention that there was recently a piece. There's a I think it's a YouTube channel called The Tiara Show, which is about Disney. And I just did, with a group from Disney, a big, long interview about Food Rocks, which was a show in Florida that's little heralded, that ran in the food pavilion for years. And it was fantastic. It was just a great experience because I hadn't talked to those people in years. And it was great getting back with those Imagineering people. So some of that stuff, has its own... It has its era, and then it's forgotten, and then it comes back again. So you've always got to catch that wave of when it's coming back.
And if I remember from a previous conversation with you, the Voyage of the Little Mermaid, you had the curtain. Wasn't that you, the waterfall curtain?
No, that wasn't. But I was brought in for a couple of those effects on the Little Mermaid. Yeah.
Yeah, because
that was that was done in-house by Disney. It was fantastic.
Yeah, that's a live show where you're seeing everything there in real time. Okay, so to talk a little bit about, because our fans out there love movies, which movie do you think best represents the real kind of world of magic? Now, I think we all like Burt Wonderstone because that's kind of like looking into a funhouse mirror. It's an exaggeration, but it's recognizable. But when you think, what do you think? The Prestige, maybe The Illusionist? What did you like in the?
It's funny. I consulted on Burt Wonderstone, and I know people talk about The Prestige and The Illusionist. I kind of like The Illusionist, to be honest with you. Prestige is fantastic, but it's all wrapped up in a lot of science fiction.
A lot of science fiction, yes.
And it's very funny, it's very funny finding the slice that really tells you about magic. And of course, a lot of films deliberately don't do that because that's not interesting, because it's kind of geeky.
Yeah.
But I would say, I think The Illusionist is a fantastic piece of fiction and a really dreamlike look at magic. And it's certainly worth seeing if people haven't seen it. And I'd also say, I just go back to this. It's a real classic and it's pretty crazy. But the Tony Curtis Houdini from 1953. I mean, it's a big, glamorous, Technicolor, crazy look at history that isn't really Houdini. But that whole kind of notion of vaudeville and of the excitement of that age and how hard those people were working to achieve those things, I think that does come through in that film, and I think it's always fun to watch because of that reason.
Yeah, I think the Tony Curtis Houdini may not be an accurate portrayal of.
No, I don't think there really is an accurate portrayal.
But I think it's fair. It can be
Absolutely.
fair and not should be. It is fair. That was a very heady time for live entertainment.
It's interesting to note that film was in development for a long, long time. His wife tried to sell a production about his life when she was still alive to Hollywood. Yeah. And so that was kicking around for a long, 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 long time before there was Tony Curtis to be considered. So it was everyone knew it was a good idea, but it wasn't until the 1950s that it was actually produced.
Yeah, they had to kind of put it together there. So, all right. So, The Illusionist, which takes some liberties with the history of magic, but it does
Absolutely.
a very nice job of kind of capturing what stage magic was like in that time. So some of the effects are exaggerated, but
It's a little bit. It's certainly made new for film, those effects. But I think that it's a really beautiful kind of dreamlike look at a magic show of that era. Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Well, I can't thank you enough for being here. Once again, the website, jimsteinmeyer.com. Our fans, I'm sure, are going to.
Thanks, Rusty.
Oh, you're very welcome. Stick around here just for a second and we're done. But for all my PopCon peeps out there, until next time, live long and prosper.